back in December of 2011, Anonymous hacked into the email accounts for Stratfor, which is basically a private intelligence firm. And now Wikileaks is slowly but surely releasing some of those emails. Now, the first batch of emails basically disclose what this private intelligence firm was doing. Basically, they were aiding corporations on spying on activists. Okay, Coca-Cola was concerned about activists sabotaging the Olympics, so they hired Stratfor for intelligence on that situation. Also, there was Dow Chemical, who was concerned about environmentalists and the type of impact they would have on the business, so they had Stratfor basically spy on these individuals as well.
And you know, it goes beyond that too, because remember Dow Chemical had the huge Bhopal accident. So they were understandably activists looking to redress their grievances there, because it was a gigantic disaster, cost so many lives. They're like, yeah, let's monitor those folks. So the sense of the scope of this is something I did not know. I mean, so here's this organization that for all of these private businesses is looking into anything that they might consider opponents, okay? And so whether it's PETA, whether it's activists, whether it's groups like Yes Men, who's just a comedy group. It's a comedy group that makes fun of corporations, they're investigated. And these guys apparently have access to top secret information.
Yes, they do. And obviously, if you really look into this story, you see that they're not too concerned about ethical means when it comes to obtaining this information. In fact, according to an email written by George Friedman, he is the Stratfor founder, he says, you know, they were looking for an informant who knew information about Hugo Chavez, right? And he says of this informant, if this is a source you suspect may have value, you have to take control of him. Control means financial, sexual, or psychological control to the point where he would reveal his sourcing and be tasked.
So that's really, really interesting, because we often have questions about whether some people are set up on sex charges, right? We had that question regarding Elliot Spitzer, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, among so many others. And here is this secretive group that apparently works for the top companies in the world that has no problem using tricks like sexual seduction, etc., to get whatever they need, whether it might be information or something else. Now, their senior vice president in charge of intelligence is a guy named Fred Burton, and he says that he asked a trusted former CIA cronies for information and people that could uncover secret information at the FBI, and apparently they do so quite often. So wait a minute, now, these guys go after any kind of whistleblower. The government does. In fact, President Obama has been absolutely vigilant in going after whistleblowers. He said he would protect them during the campaign. It's been the exact opposite. He has filed more Espionage Act charges than the rest of the presidents combined, right? When it comes to whistleblowers that are showing you what the government's actually doing. When it comes to people who are actually violating the CIA and the FBI for information for private corporations, you never hear a word about it. Right. It's never prosecuted, never investigated, and we would have never found out if it wasn't for Anonymous and WikiLeaks. And apparently Fred Burton also has connections to the Israelis. I know that's shocking. And he apparently also has information about Mossad's covert program to assassinate Iranian physicists, which, by the way, is not even acknowledged in public. So these guys know more than our press does, than almost anyone does. And what do they use it for? For the private gain of these corporations. In fact, they know so much, the Marines use them for intelligence. Here is Lieutenant Colonel Bill Gresham. In one of the emails, he's quoted as saying, "We are interested in terrorism, daily terrorism briefs, and anything from George Friedman." That's the guy who started this company. Additionally, the situation in Iraq and Afghanistan. So they turn to this private company for intelligence on Iraq and Afghanistan. That's the Marines. So that tells you two things. One, these guys collect intelligence almost better than anyone else.
Right.
Two, our government is perfectly aware of what they're doing. Yet, has there been any investigations? No.
No, they're helping corporations, they're helping the government. Who cares if they gather their intelligence in an unethical way? Doesn't matter at all.
Who cares if they have secret intelligence they're not supposed to have? Who cares who they share it with, including foreign corporations? Because unfortunately, our government is now of the corporations, by the corporations, for the corporations. So this secretive group that apparently has more intelligence than anyone else, government thinks, fantastic. Let's use them along with the big corporations. What's the difference anyway? Now, the one guys, of course, that they want to go after is WikiLeaks, who's letting people know about this secretive group. That they can't stand.
Yes. In fact, back in January of 2011, the vice president of intelligence wrote an email, and the email said, "Not for publication. We have a sealed indictment on Assange. Please protect." So obviously that's something that they have great interest in. They're focusing a lot on. They're definitely after him.
And they know about indictments that we don't even know about. Now, how do they know that? Now, isn't that supposed to be secret information? Are they going to be punished? Is there going to be an investigation? I guarantee you right now, there will be no investigation of this company. The Justice Department, which loses it over WikiLeaks, which tortured Bradley Manning, even before they even charged him, let alone had a trial. Do you think they're going to take the CEO of this corporation, strip him down naked every night like they did to Bradley Manning, keep him in isolation for 19 months? They're not even going to investigate him. Look, as to whether they have real charges on Assange, by the way, it's interesting what we find out from the emails, too. Chris Farnham, who is apparently their senior watch officer in Australia for this company, says about the charges in Sweden on Assange, quote, "There's absolutely nothing behind it other than prosecutors that are looking to make a name for themselves." I mean, good news, bad news. Apparently they didn't set it up, right? That's the good news, okay? That's what happens when secrets are revealed. They're not all damaging. Some show that people were not guilty of some things. That's why it's always better to know, for good or for bad. The bad news is, it turns out, even the guys who are most connected think, oh, Assange didn't do the thing in Sweden. It's just a prosecutor trying to make a name for himself. It's nonsense. Nonetheless, are those charges going forward? You betcha.
Definitely. And also, let's talk about the value of WikiLeaks for a second. I know we've talked about it before, right? But if you look at this private intelligence firm and the way that they gather their information in an unethical and maybe even illegal way, right? They're not going to face any charges. WikiLeaks might, Julian Assange, people are going after him because of the way he obtained this information. People are claiming that he is basically betraying this country and he's doing these horrible things to this country. This is real journalism, in my opinion, okay? You go back to the days of muckraking when they would basically reveal what was going on behind big business. That was real journalism. We have nothing close to that now. Julian Assange and Anonymous is what we're depending on at this point when it comes to revealing what's really going on behind the scenes with these private contractors, with these big corporations. So the fact that Stratfor is not going to face any consequences for the things that they've done drives me crazy when people are going after Julian Assange for something that's so important for this country.
Now, understand why the rest of the media does not give positive coverage to WikiLeaks. It's because they're so insanely jealous. And it's not just being jealous. It's that they're afraid that WikiLeaks is going to expose them for what they are, which is hacks. They're not journalists, they're stenographers. 90% of them, not all of them, and there's some great journalists out there. But unfortunately, the great body of mainstream journalism, so-called journalism, has turned into stenographers. Oh, I have a source inside the government. Well, that source leaked that to you for a specific political purpose. You almost never go beyond that source. You never even question the source, whether they're telling you the truth or not. You just write it down. And then what do you do in political issues? You don't tell people what the reality is. You say Democrats said this and Republicans said that. Well, what the hell's the truth? Who cares? I did my jobs. I did neutral journalism. You're an embarrassment. WikiLeaks shows what an embarrassment you are, and you hate them for it. And by the way, in one of the email exchanges, Fred Burton also claims that he has material seized from Osama bin Laden's compound. Wow. Can you imagine anything more classified than when we got out of Osama bin Laden's compound? And this company apparently has access to it? Can you imagine if WikiLeaks or Bradley Manning got the information from Osama bin Laden's compound? How quickly would they have been indicted, put in jail, put in isolation, stripped naked, whatever it takes, right? Will this company be investigated? Look, we're telling you ahead of time. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Eric Holder, President Obama, and the rest of Washington is on the level. And if they're on the level, they'll see this and say, this is outrageous. We should obviously investigate immediately. But I'm telling you ahead of time, they're not going to do that because they're not on the level. They're going to try to cover this up quickly. And if anyone gets blamed for any of this, it'll be WikiLeaks for exposing Stratfor. That's what's going to happen.